Thank you, everyone. I'm sure that you've all had awkward experiences in your life. I personally feel like I've had more than others. But fear not, I'm here to help you today to feel more comfortable and less awkward when talking about the subject of domestic violence. Now, before you run out of the auditorium thinking to yourself, oh, this talk doesn't apply to me, I'd like for you to remember that the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, has noted that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have experienced domestic violence in their life. So that means if you know 4 women or 7 men, stay seated. Okay, all right, still have everybody. Fantastic. So I discovered that I was a survivor of domestic violence one day when I was sitting in a boardroom as a board member for an organization in Delaware that is serving the children of Delaware and creating an environment where domestic violence survivors can thrive. In this board meeting, we had an employee who was giving a presentation on different types of domestic violence. It included financial, emotional, psychological. That's when the light went off. I broke out into a cold sweat. I felt sick. I realized, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. It was an earth-shattering moment in my life. How is it that I didn't know this until now? I'm a master's prepared nurse who's trained, by the way, to identify and also report abuse. All too often, the education that we're given is focused so much on physical violence. And physical violence is awful. It's a terrible truth that many live with. However, there are other forms of abuse that are sometimes overshadowed. I have a coworker that I was really wanting to get to know on a personal level. I thought she was fantastic, and I'd always invite her out for drinks. She would always tell me, I'm so sorry, my husband can't stay at home with the kids. Or she would tell me, oh, I'm too busy, I really wish I could, maybe next time. And so I'm a pretty persistent person. I kept asking because, failure, okay, fine, I'll just keep at it. One day we were at an event over the weekend. It was a Saturday event, and my coworker asked me if I could chat after the event. I was so excited. I was like, finally, I'm going to get that drink. All right. Well, she asked me if I could meet with her in her car because she didn't actually have time to go get a drink, and she just really wanted to talk to me about a few things. So I met with her in her car, and I didn't really think much of it. About a year later, the two of us are on a business trip, and I finally got that drink. It was a dirty martini. It was fantastic. And when I got that drink with her on that trip, she started to tell me about some more details of her life that clued me into the fact that she was being abused. I noticed on that trip that she paid for everything in cash. I noticed on that trip that she often had to call her husband to check in with him. We started having more conversations about other things that she was experiencing. The things that she was experiencing were very subtle, and she was so very good at hiding them. The signs of the type of abuse that my friend, now friend, was experiencing are so subtle. What we need to do is to look for those signs and those symptoms. So if you have a friend who is suddenly spending a lot less time with you, that's something you should be concerned about. If you have a friend who's constantly having to call and check in with their partner, that's something that you should be concerned about. If your friend is having to cancel plans abruptly, if their behavior has changed, especially if they're in a new relationship, that's probably when it's time to check in with your friend and let them know that you've noticed things and that you're concerned. I'm really fortunate I have a great network of people in my life. I had lots of friends who would check in on me. Honestly, for a long time, I wasn't really ready to talk about my story. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. It feels that way anyway. I would much rather be on the stage naked right now than talking about what I'm talking about. Okay, don't worry, I'm keeping my clothes on and I'm going to keep talking. But it's not something that's easy to talk about. And so, now we're going to get to the part of the talk that you're all waiting for, which is what not to say if you have a friend who's experiencing domestic violence. So, number one, please, please, please do not tell them that you always knew they were a bad egg. It's really not helpful at this point in the relationship. If your friend has a new partner and you're not sure about them or you have an uneasy feeling, that's a great time to let your partner know, hey, it's really concerning to me that when we go out for drinks, your partner's calling you all the time. When they've already been abused, that's not the time to bring up that conversation. Why didn't you leave sooner? I was asked that question. Well, when you're being financially abused, it's really hard to find housing. When you are being emotionally and psychologically abused, you have a belief in your core that you can't survive without that person. Again, master's prepared executive nurse, didn't think I could survive without that person. And let's just throw some kids in there while we're at it. If you have children, the last thing you want to do is leave your children with that person who is capable of abuse. And so it's not really productive or helpful asking a domestic violence survivor why they didn't leave sooner. I also want to just throw a disclaimer out that all of these things were asked or said to either myself or one of my friends. What did you say that made them hit you? Let me just remind you all that hands are for hugging and not for hitting. This is not something that should be said, and it's really putting the blame onto the victim. If you go back, we can't be friends anymore. Having that belief that you are not lovable, that you are unworthy of genuine love and connection being reinforced by someone that you think is your friend is devastating. I understand that it's hard to watch a loved one or a friend go in and out of an abusive relationship. The best thing that you can do is offer your support and let them know that no matter what, I'm going to be here for you. If you go back, I'll be here. If you don't go back, I'll be here. Threatening to end a relationship or a friendship with someone because they are going back is harmful. Statistics show that often the survivors of domestic violence go back. It's terrible to have that fear of losing the people that you love in your life if you make that decision. Asking for details about the events that happened, I have had people ask me for details, and it's very uncomfortable. It's hard to stand here today and talk about this. Going into detail about the events that happened is something that the survivor should do on their own time if they want to. I'd just like to say again that I'm really fortunate because I have an amazing support network. I have people who love me and who care about me. The best thing that you can do for people who are victims is to help them. And you can do that by doing specific things. I have a friend who put me onto her cell phone plan so that I could get away from my abuser's cell phone plan. I had a friend who sheltered me in her home because I was afraid to go home alone at night. I had a friend, several friends actually, who came to the abuser's house with me and helped me pack up my things so that I could be safe. I'm not saying that you have to do any of those things. Bottom line, the best thing you can do is listen and be supportive and continue to give that person love. I am on the other side. So for anyone who's experiencing domestic violence right now, I just want you to know that there is another side where you can be happy and healthy and live a life where you don't have that fear inside of you anymore. Thank you.